Are live. This is episode 93 of the PHU Dynasty podcast, and I'm here with a different host today, a different co-host, I should say today. Sean O'Shea taking the week off, resting up the vocal cords, and instead we have Lionheads GM Vincent Patrick Nanny, fresh Bucky shirt, which I always appreciate. Everybody loves a good Bucky shirt. Vince, how you doing today?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Here to shoot the shit a little bit about our good friend James's team. See where he's been, see the direction we're going, and see what it looks like.
Yeah, this should be a really fun one. I feel like we've gone deep into the players for each of the teams in the past couple of episodes. Maybe we've gone along a little long, perhaps for some of our viewers. But I always love a good long form podcast personally, just because I can use it in different chunks of the day, whether it be at work or the gym or whatever else. But that being said, we're going to try our best to highlight the players that should be talked about, but also, like Vince said, talk about kind of the direction, because I do feel like this is a bit of a different team than we've talked about so far in terms of the trajectory of this team, where it's been, and kind of the state of the union, if you will, of the Lambs, because they are such a prestigious franchise within this league. It does deserve a bit of a historical look as well. So, Vince, I'm just going to fire it up here. This is the Keep Trade Cut team breakdown page, kind of like we did last week for the Bombers. Have it sorted by position groups. We have different, like all the Keep Trade Cut values, which is, of course, a dynasty value, not so much a redraft value for this season. So we have to take that into account. But we can start kind of with this positional strength chart that we see. And this is kind of something that I think is interesting to note, because this is a team that, kind of burnt things down a little bit, a structured rebuild, I would call it, keeping specific pieces of the puzzle, such as a CD Lamb, Justin Herbert, to mention a couple. But just from a high level view, a bird's eye view, how do you view where the Lambs are at in the grand, landscape of the league?
Well, before we get into that, I think it's important to talk about like the past with the Lambs, like
Sure,
why
let's
we
start
did
there.
blow it
Yeah.
up a little bit. Like, James won a few titles. Um, he had a good team. He had stars like Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, obviously too, still doing it. And he had like Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler hitting the primes of their career. Obviously Mike Evans, Mari Cooper. Um, he had a lot of just guys that were producers year to year in this league. And some of that are going to be even Hall of Famers in the real world, like Mike Evans. And I think like what you went through, there's no good time to really do a rebuild. I think the logic is you want to be early, you want to beat it to the punch, because if you're left holding the bag, you don't really have anything in some for some scenarios with players. So that's why James moved off of CMC, moved off of Mike Evans, who he still has draft capital coming for. Uh,
Kind of a
totally
stark
understand why he did it,
contrast to the
but
to the Bombers last week. Where they kind of maybe hold a little bit longer. James was a little bit earlier, I would say, in getting his assets moved, right?
yeah, yeah, and like now Christian McCaffrey is a consensus top 10 running back. And if James was trying to compete this year, I bet he'd really like to have that player. But he kind of made a commitment to that like, no, we're going to take a couple years, reload, and get back to it in the future. But a lot of rebuilds can come with a little air of shame to them. You basically have to take yourself out of the running for a couple years. There's no shame with James because he won. Like
Yeah, you got your championships.
he got his championships, but also he was a consistent playoff maker for years and years and years, and he made the right move in getting up, doing that ahead of it. But it's gonna be interesting to see if he can get back to being a consistent playoff person. When you look at the keep trade cut right there, it says that not a single position is top five. Um,
In dynasty
and
value. Yeah.
correct, and I'd have to agree with that. Unfortunately for James. So it's like if you're not top five at any position, you really don't have an edge. So it's like I don't think Keep Trade Cut would think James is going to make the playoffs this year.
No, I would imagine not. And I could even run that. I mean, we could even look at the power rankings. Perhaps that might be fun to look at while we're in here. Let's look at like maybe starters.
It's got him at 6. It's got him at 6 right now.
Well, the
But that's
starter says 7.
Yeah, starters is 7. Yeah,
So I mean, it's. But I think
but that's 7 out of 8 because
yeah,
2 teams gave up already
yeah.
in
I mean, there's two
Alex and
teams that are
Clay.
throwing in the towel for sure.
And the team that they have behind him is the Toronto Battle Axes. Do you really think that Scully's team is worse than his?
I never bet against the Scavellius ever. The Fighting Scavellius, I will never ever bet against them. So there, it's like Nick Chubb. I'm not betting against Nick Chubb. Like so, yeah. It's gonna be like like you said. I think it's an 8-person league almost this year, which I hate to even say.
It really is.
But that's
It
just kind of where we're at.
definitively is. It's June. I could say with confidence it's an 8-person league.
And it's the thing is the trajectory of those bottom 2 teams in terms like even Dan, he has assets that are still tradable or whatever, but like it's not even if he tries to put something together this year, it's just not going to happen based on the other depth of the other positions. So I mean, it is truly a punt year for both of those franchises. So it is an 8-person league, which is good for frankly for both of those teams near the bottom of these power rankings, the Battle Axes and the Lambs. Because there's ways that they can make it happen. That being said, like
they're different. Like Scavelli doesn't have his pick. He has to make the playoffs.
Yeah, he's got no choice. Yeah,
James is almost like he wants to miss the playoffs by like 1 win, and then oh no, I got the 3rd pick. Oh no, but being like 1 win behind a good playoff team, but then getting the 3rd best player, that doesn't feel so bad.
Right. And in this class, I do believe they're, at the 3rd pick in any class for the most part, you're going to get, a quality, prospect at that spot. Year to year, you're going to always find somebody probably at that 3rd pick that'll be more than useful for the future. That being said, this is a team that, has started the rebuild process. They did move off of assets like you mentioned, like the Mike Evans, the Christian McCaffreys of the world. Now, what's interesting is this is a team that's frankly in the rebuild as it stands right now. However, this is one of the older rebuilding teams, if you will, at 25.2 years old. Teams like Tibbs, I believe, is kind of in the same range. I'm significantly younger. I think mine's like 23 point something. So it's not like these players are like ultra young. And I think some of these, are the quarterbacks for the most part, like obviously like your Herberts and whatnot, but
here's Derek Carr. That's skewing that.
Yeah, that's not going to help the cause either.
I'm sure guys like Austin Eckler are not helping, the running back rankings, and
I kind of
like wide receiver. He has Brandon Cooks, MVS.
Yeah, so there's some wily old veterans in the rooms, if you will, the veteran presences.
I don't want to focus on that. I'd rather focus more on like who are these young players? Like how many do we have that are actual guys that like, hey, that's an upside player. Like quarterback, sure. I like this quarterback room. I actually think this quarterback room was in dire need of an infusion, and James did it really good and at a really good value.
And quick. Like
quick, efficiently. Now, we may be 2 years from now and none of them hit. Jalen Milroe could be a bust. Sam Darnold could be done with his contract. Tyler Shuck could suck it up in New Orleans, get replaced by Archie by this time next year, and then we're left with just Herbert and nobody else again. But that's in the nature of how quarterback works. Like you have to be taking value bites at the apple. Giving yourself a chance to get high upside guys and then other guys who just keep the seat warm. Jalen Milroe, high upside guy. Sam Darnold, a nice week-to-week play to go along with Herbert. And then Tyler Shuck is just, hey, I don't have enough in the room. Might as well get another guy. I like the way he built the quarterback room and the efficiency at which he did it.
Yeah, and the value of the picks that he used and the assets he used to get these players none of them were premium assets, and they're all, frankly, either A, usable, or B, have some level of upside. So I feel like that's, as much as I hate to say it, Vince, like I don't love any of these players. Like they're just not my guys for the most part. I actually like Milroe the most out of this grouping.
Me too. He's a high upside guy.
He does, like, there is some, like, at least for me, I saw it firsthand with Jalen Hurts, but I feel some Jalen Hurts here. Like there's some reason to believe that like that could be an outcome because of the athleticism. Now he's not nearly as good of a passer as at this point, but
You don't
there's a
know though.
chance.
He could
There's a
end up
chance.
being one of those guys who's an 1,100-yard rusher, and they just run an offense around that. But like
Sure.
right now, I like that he has that, and he still has enough assets next year. He has two firsts, two thirds, two fourths, a second. He could get a top two quarterback next year. In the quarterback class, people talk shit about the 26 class, but the quarterback class is still pretty decent.
Yeah, it should be just fine at quarterback, and he, he still has his picks in 27 as well, which should be even better at the quarterback position. So I think that this quarterback room as a whole, for where the team is at right now, I would say like, I mean, they're definitely competing at this point, but it's like a half compete almost, if you will, because we're not quite there yet, obviously. But like you can get by with this room, trying to make the playoffs for
It
sure.
has him ranked ninth, and I totally understand why, because like the top four teams all have like, or top or even five if you really like Burrow, all have like the guy, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and that's what we're all searching for. No, no doubt, those people who have that are better than those of us who do not.
Sure.
But if you're playing roulette, like I know I've done it and other teams have done it, like sometimes you just run out of bodies at quarterback. Like you just need to have guys you can rely on. And he made a nice value play to get Sam Darnold. I like that. Like I said, Chuck's going to get the ball this year. Jalen Milrow is a nice long term stash. You could rely on Justin Herbert. It's good enough to get by this year, in a year where we're not really competing. See what happens and see what the future holds.
And I
Uh,
I, I do want to
it's
spend
enough
a
for
second
now.
here, maybe talking about Justin Herbert, because his value over the last few years has definitely taken a dive with the Harbaugh offense coming in, a very run heavy offense. Do you see like an outcome where Herbert kind of gets back into that top tier, or is this kind of just like is this the new way it's going to be, for Justin Herbert?
No, I definitely do. You're not gonna like to hear this. It comes at the expense of your guy Omari and Hampton, but
Oh, of
I
course,
definitely
yeah,
think there is room for Justin Herbert to have 42 touchdowns, 4,500 yards in a year where maybe Omari and Hampton only has 8 touchdowns
sure,
because
yeah,
you know the offense just happens to throw a lot. Maybe it's something like my guy Trey Harris breaks out to go along with Lad McConkey keeping it up. Like those are the types of things that play into an upside Herbert play. We are a 6 point touchdown league too. So a guy throwing 42 touchdowns is big points. When Aaron Rodgers won MVP, like he was putting up huge quarterback years for me. Like guys who are passers can absolutely still be high impact guys. So I'm definitely a big Herbert fan. I think he's a little bit slept on, because I feel like he has such a high floor. And maybe that's kind of the theme of him and Sam Darnold is like I think we feel good about them having pretty high floors. We just don't feel great about them ever being quarterback 3, 2, or some
right.
spike like that.
Yeah, and Herbert, it's interesting, like you mentioned, like I think these past couple of years, like the pass catching guys that they've had on the Chargers have just frankly not been good. So they may have just designed the offense to suit the team's strengths, which is what you're supposed to do as an NFL coach, right? So,
Yep.
you don't want Herbert slinging it 78 times, a game to Quentin Johnston and whatever shitty third Darius Davis, and like it's not good football. So, now that they've added Trey Harris, the ghost of Mike Williams even could maybe play good for a couple of games before getting hurt. They have guys now and Lad McConkey, of course, is a breakout candidate for a lot of people. So I think this should be a better passing offense, and in turn, that should help Herbert overall. So yeah, the quarterback room is solid overall, and
It's
it's
enough, and he has assets to get better. So it is what it
absolutely.
is. So yeah, I guess we'll move on to running back unless you have anything else.
No, I think a running back would be the next spot to go, and this is an interesting room as well because frankly it's floated by a lot of rookie value right now, and that's an obvious piece of the puzzle in this rebuild. You trade McCaffrey away, you get rid of some of your other big assets, your Joe Mixons of the world. So now we're kind of left with just we're fishing for upside here, to try for at least from a competition standpoint this year we're going to need these rookies to hit if we're going to have a shot.
We need these rookies to hit period if this rebuild's going to have a shot. I mean,
It's a great
even
point.
one
Yeah.
of these rookie running backs not hitting, I think puts this whole rebuild debatably an entire year behind. Uh, As it stands right now, we have Henderson, Judkins. Okay, we got two rookies. We both feel great about their future. We both know that they're going to get carries in bad offenses, but the idea is that these offenses improve over time as well as James's team around them. So, okay, totally buy it. Jordan Mason, I could see maybe 2 years of value for him. But like, how long are we really? How long is Jordan Mason's value really going to hold?
He's
I mean,
already 26 and he's barely been in the league, so
yeah, and it just feels like his upside's kind of capped on what kind of player he is.
yeah, he's a 2-down back. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Jaden Blue just went to Dallas, and like I kind of lump him, Garendo, Ollie Gordon, like just like unknown long shot lottery ticket running backs. And then there's guys like Austin Eckler, veteran producer, but how much longer are we going to get him as what a barely flex playable running back as the backup in Washington? Um,
I mean,
like
just
Sean
a year
Tucker,
probably. Yeah.
Kenneth Gainwell, Isaiah Davis. I just don't really see a running back three that when I think the rest of this team is ready to compete and he has better position groups overall, there just is only really in my mind two guys who are even part of that plan. We just drafted them. And if they don't hit, if one doesn't hit, man, we could be fucked.
It could be an issue, and I think I'll say this because I did watch a ton of these running backs and even a couple of these guys in previous years, like Garendo and Isaiah Davis, and even Sean Tucker to some extent. But with Henderson, um, I'm a huge Henderson fan personally. I just love the player. I think he's a great fit for McDaniels. I think Drake May is going to love him, and I think like if I were to bet on one of these guys to be that guy we're talking about, it would be him. And that's not to say that Judkins doesn't have the upside to do that as well. But I feel better about Henderson long term just because I think he's the kind of guy that will last in the league the longest. And even like you said, even if this guy, both these guys hit, we don't have a clear upside three, which I think is an issue because if you look at the draft capital for this team moving forward as well, we do have the 2 firsts next year, which is nice. So you could get a running back in that grouping for sure. But we don't have the assets that the Elk have. We don't have the assets that the Cheese Fries had when they were
Well,
rebuilding.
not even that. That just do you have like okay? The Chiefs do not have a way to really get a running back without trading another player.
Sure, that's
But
a great point. Yeah,
keep what they have right now: Gibbs, Brees Hall, Josh Jacobs,
yeah, they have
James
the pieces.
Conner.
Yeah,
Like we still have enough warm bodies there. But like it's not fair to compare yourself to Tibbs. Tibbs is the best, but like compare yourself to somebody like even like me. Like, okay, I got Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco, Ray Davis. Like I got more warm bodies there, and I only have one less pick than James next year in the first, one less
right.
pick in the third, and I have two less fourths. So it's like, eh, is the difference in that a first, a third, and two fourths? I'm not so sure. You know, it's tough. It's a lot of ground to make up. And that's if, again, both players hit. If something happens, like God forbid, a injury happens, or, like the Browns drafted Samson, like what if they really like Samson and it's like a 60-40 kind of split more than like a majority kind of thing? It's more of an RB running back by committee. It could get really tough for the Lambs. But that's like a doomsday scenario because there's also a scenario where James finds running backs out of thin air, and then it's like, man, he got a nice flex play, like kind of like a Chris Carson, like how he got back in the day, and
Yeah, I mean, you could catch a Bucky, you could catch a nice 3rd round pick in one of these years, and it's not to say that can't happen.
oh yeah,
Um,
he's gonna need something like that to happen, or he's just gonna have to kind of like really be in position like next year to load up on two baby rookies that hit and. I guess what I'm getting at is if not, like, is this running back room good enough to win next year? Not with
I
the
mean,
players in it in the present. No.
Not right now, no. And the reason for that mostly, like we said, like Jordan Mason is a nice guy for this season, a nice 2-down banger, but he's not a profiler of a 3-down back even next year because I would imagine that Aaron Jones gets the boot at some point next year. I would imagine after this year he's on another 1-year deal, I think.
Just wouldn't
And
shock me if Minnesota just straight up just says like, no, we want to get a running back in the draft. Like,
yeah, we're just gonna go find somebody younger, better, whatever. Like Jordan Mason is a replaceable player. There's no doubt about it from an NFL standpoint. So,
mhm.
so like he could just kind of be a nothing. I guess really like your real shots at for this season, I would say, at trying to scrap something together would be I would say Isaac Garendo, and I hate to say it because he's a McCaffrey guy here, but
Comes a year
McCaffrey has
expense.
not been able to stay healthy. So if he can't, then Garendo is, potential RB2 on a week to week basis, which is very nice, obviously, for this team. And then Jaden Blue, which I'll sit here and say it. I think Jaden Blue is a massively overvalued asset right now for
Oh
fantasy.
no.
I hate to say it. I like Jaden Blue as the player. I don't like Jaden Blue as this profile that he's being made out to be, which is like he's going to be the guy for Dallas because he was the first drafted rookie for the team. I think that's a mistake. I don't think that's what this is going to end up being. Like he's a
I don't
good
think
young
James is
player.
expecting that either. I think James thinks he has a shot, and I think
Yeah, he's
that's
got a
just
shot,
a
sure.
reasonable standpoint. Is like he's a rookie. He could easily have a shot to carry this ball, and if not, he figures to at least always kind of. If everyone sucks, he kind of figures to have first crack because he's young, fresh legs.
Sure.
And
I'm just
that's
saying,
like the
like the
warm body
community
James.
seems to be like, yeah, let's like redraft rankings for Jaden Blue are way. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. Like it's too
Yeah.
much.
Uh, yeah, no, I get it, I understand, but like for James got him in the third
Yeah, he's
round,
a third round pick. Yeah,
and he's just looking to like create these like I said, like where is that running back three? Like it could be Jaden Blue, and that's what James is trying to find now, so he can get ahead of the problem, so that his first round picks next year all aren't up against the gun to hit.
sure.
So I get it, but like we were saying, right now as this stands, it's not a good enough running back core to win this year.
What's the
Not
buzz
at
on
all.
Ollie Gordon? I'm curious because I mean you're close to the Dolphins. I mean it's early, right? But I
It's
haven't heard
him and
really
Jalen Wright,
anything.
and it looks like it'll just be kind of like a die for the knife type situation for them because they drafted Jalen Wright higher last year. Ollie Gordon, I thought was just a great value for us. I couldn't
Tremendous
believe he fell as
value.
far as he did.
I think there's like a. I mean, you're hoping for a little bit of a runner here, but there's an outside chance that he could be like a goal line banger and be somewhat useful for fantasy.
Oh, absolutely, and I like that pick. That's another pick, like I said, James trying to get ahead of this running back problem. Like he knows about it. He's not stupid. He's a good, smart fantasy player. Like he knows he needs to create
Yeah,
these
these
running
these
backs.
guys have
He won
shots.
titles off of good running backs. Like he knows that this is how he does it. Will be by hitting on an Ollie Gordon and hitting on a Blue. Maybe Jordan Mason actually is better than we think, and maybe he can get a squeeze an extra couple years out of that to go along with some other savvy moves. There's meat on the bone, and he has draft capital to facilitate being creative. I'm just saying, as it stands right now, this running back room is ranked seventh. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing before we move on here, and this because I watched a lot of tape on this backfield, which is not something that was super fun to watch. But the Jets backfield, um, Isaiah Davis, I'm going to say it right now as a Braylon Allen owner, is better than Braylon Allen. Like I actually think he's the handcuff to own there, which is I mean it's not like they were massively drafted in different realms. They were both day 3 picks. But that being said, like if you watch the on-field performance from last year, Isaiah Davis was the better back of the two. So like I really don't think like I kind of forgot what James's cut situation is like at this point. But between him and Sean Tucker, who I think will be RB2 for the Bucks next year when Rashad White walks. Like both of those guys are like not, they're not just like, oh, let's just cut them. They're going to be nothing. Like I think both those guys could legitimately be handcuffs, solid handcuffs next year, if not this year.
It looks like he has about like 6, 7 cuts to make, but some of these are easy, like Will Levis, Derek Carr. Cut
Sure.
that
Okay.
quarterback room down to 4. You can get
To
rid of
me,
like
I wouldn't
Kenneth
cut anybody
Gainwell.
except for Gainwell, maybe. Like
Yeah,
that's,
Gainwell. That's
I,
but the
I
the
would
wide
keep
receiver
everybody
room
else.
has some fat. Like Brandon Cooks, MVS, and Robinson are all
Yeah, those are fun cuts. Those are
pretty
fun cuts.
cuttable.
Yeah.
He
But
he,
and
he
all
has
that to say is like even the 8 and 9 guys on this team, like as much as we've kind of like questioned this room a little, um, like they're all these guys. There's a reason that they are on this roster. Like they have a legitimate chance to have fantasy value in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not RB2, RB1.
guys
You know,
like
like
Blue and Ollie Gordon. they're the type of guys where James is looking to catch a miracle and have them be like 5-year flex plus players because
I see that
they.
for Isaiah Davis too. You get one Hall
Oh wow,
injury,
you even think it for him?
I
Okay.
think it's possible. Like you get a Hall injury. Hall has not been super healthy throughout his career. He's a free agent, I think, after this year. And if like it's really not out of the question that he gets like some standalone value at some point. Like he could end up in the Jalen Wright role for all I know. So
Fair, but it's a long shot still. He's
no,
running back
it's still all these
75
guys are.
for a
I'm
reason.
not saying his RB8
Yeah.
is a ready to rock guy. I'm just saying like we have reasons to believe here, which is like for a lot of teams in this league, you can go to their RB9 and 8 and say like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like,
Oh,
why is
I
this guy on a
agree.
roster?
I agree. I agree. He's got more
It's a
warm
well
bodies than
constructed room.
most, but that's also because the 2 leaders in the room are rookies.
Sure. Okay.
3
Yeah,
of the top
those are
4
fair.
are rookies.
Yeah. I mean, like that's a great point. So
So it's like he kind of like I hope they have upside because they're all so young that's kind of like baked into their value is that like hey they could be something, but James knows that. So like I like where this running room's heading. I like the draft picks. I think he got great value on Henderson, and we'll see how he kind of builds it in the future. And this year for James, I think it's just watch people grow, pray for health, and everybody playing well.
yeah, I think I agree with all that, and this should just be like for James, like from a Sunday watching standpoint, should be a great time because like all these guys are going to be fresh, new. Even Mason's in a different situation. Like it should just be like on a week to week just to see what you got. Like as a rebuilding team recently, it like rebuilding is super fun from that standpoint where it's like okay, let's just see what either my good rookies are, and let's see my shithead rookies. I want to see
Mhm.
all these guys as they kind of just like pan into whatever they're gonna be. Like that is a part of the fun of the rebuild. So at the very least, it should be exciting watching. But let's go to the receivers now. And this is I've my quick analogy of this is like a festival, right? Like a music festival where there's just 2 fucking banging headliners, and the rest of the festival, like you don't even have to show up to the festival till 7 p.m. because I just we know these headliners are gonna rip, but I don't want to waste the rest of the day baking in the heat.
Some diehards come out for Keon Coleman at
See,
4:30.
that's what I'm saying. Like you get the cult followings, you
But
know.
yeah, for the most part, people are coming for the 2 headliners, and it's nice that CD Rock and Lamb, invited out the Jalen Royals and the Roman Wilsons to try and build up their platform. But at the end of the day, no one wants to hear Roman Wilson play. I don't want to hear about Roman Wilson. I want to hear about CD Lamb.
It's like Slipknot and System of a Down are headlining, and then you got like Dance Gavin Dance as like the third one on the best. Like, okay, great. Like they got a cult following, people love them, but like they're not that man. You're not that guy, you know.
No, and when I look at this room, James, this room's almost like an inverse because like most people when they build a wide receiving room, they have just like tons of young warm bodies, and it's like, hey, I got all these guys who are first round picks, second round picks in good situations. One of them will become a wide receiver 1. One of them will. James said, "Fuck it, I have 2 wide receiver ones," and then everybody else on the team is a wide receiver 5.
And we're just gonna rip it, and we're just gonna see what happens. And I kind of love it
because yeah, CeeDee Lamb obviously excellent,
Stud.
cornerstone fantasy player, survived the rebuild, deservedly so. Here we are on the other end, and like I said, James has a
Face of the
wide
franchise,
receiver
by the way.
1.
Big time
What was
face of
that?
the franchise. Just face of the franchise, obviously. CD Lamb. Like
The Lamb's
can't,
Lamb, yeah,
can't
he
get rid of him.
is
I mean,
he is it. He is it. But also like he deserves it. Like he's been a wide receiver 1. He's proven that he could be talked about with the big boys of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, put up production with them. Um, he's the guy. He's the guy, and it's why it's one of James's win conditions week to week is he could have a CeeDee Lamb, Brian Thomas. Like fuck, they put up 40 on me.
yeah, absolutely. And another piece of the puzzle too is like, with Lamb, there were in years past, we kind of, at least I did, I kind of questioned his ability to be that, true one that wide receiver one for fantasy. He's absolutely proven that. So I mean, you can kind of even see that here in his dynasty value, where there was like, okay, like we think we believe we're kind of there, and then it's like, oh shit, okay, we're there. So like we're finally, we know this is what it is, and the fact that he's only 26 years old, you know, like he's just like the guy that you want. He's in that upper echelon of dynasty players. So just a really good decision just to hang on to him. Obviously, you know, it's not a hard decision, I don't think, but it's just one of the ones that's like, it was
No,
nice,
it's just you got to
you
do
know,
it.
make the right call there. And then I want to give him his flowers on the Brian Thomas trade. I mean, that's one that, you know, as at the time it kind of felt like, oh, like let's see what we got here with Brian Thomas. But man, like I liked Brian Thomas coming into the draft. Obviously, I wish I took him over Jonathan Brooks at this point.
Oof.
But, you know, I still had my questions about Brian Thomas coming into the draft, like where it was, you know, he's a big, rangy receiver. He does have some route running ability, but like he wasn't like ultra polished like some of the other receivers that came out that year. Obviously, like he could definitely overshadowed by the big three of the year, right? Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison. So he kind of slid under the radar a little bit. But there was some risk involved with that trade to some level, just because we hadn't seen, you know, what Brian Thomas could do. But man, that turned out to be a good fucking call. So good, nice trade there. That really, frankly, without that trade, from a rebuilding aspect, if we didn't hit on Brian Thomas, I don't know, this doesn't look great, you know, moving forward, because having two guys like this, literally wide receiver 4 and 5 for dynasty, really helps.
Well, that's why this room, like I said, James has the hard part done. He has 2 wide receiver ones in fantasy.
Two
Like
young wide receiver.
too young? Well, CeeDee's not that young, but yeah.
He's in his prime.
Young enough. He's already established though, so it's like it's fine. Like we're gonna get 4 years of elite play. I'm happy. I'm more than happy.
Sure.
Brian Thomas again. I'll say this on the podcast. It's maybe news to some people. Some people talk to me more, may know.
Some people say
I don't believe in Travis Hunter as an offensive player. I think he's Hollywooding the fuck out of all of us. I think he's going to be a defensive player. I think that he will have offensive snaps. I think he'll even have some big offensive snaps. I think that if you are trying to be a top team, you are not going to play him. You're going to have better options to play week to week. It's just my opinion.
Hey,
I could be wrong. I'm gonna keep going. I did not have him as a first round pick.
See, I just can't get behind that. And that's just me. And I don't know. It's maybe it's because I love the idea. Maybe it's I love the idea of Travis Hunter more than the actual player. Like I don't know.
I love the idea too. It was fun in college. I understand him winning the Heisman over Gianti, who was another generational type player, but in the NFL, it's about the money, and I think that he's going to get older, and it's going to get harder to play that many snaps. And when it comes down to it, I think he'll play cornerback. Now, if he doesn't and he plays wide receiver, I'm completely wrong. I'm an idiot. I'll hold DL. He's going to be amazing because he is absolutely a sensational player. It's just more that I think when push comes to shove, he will be a cornerback in the NFL, not a wide receiver. So
that's fair. Yeah.
All that to say, I am all in on Brian Thomas. I think he's great. I also, you and I have talked about Trevor Lawrence being a little bit underrated. So Brian Thomas, I'm all aboard. I think that James has 2 locked and loaded ones for the future. After that, though,
yeah, it's not pretty, and I'll close out the Brian Thomas discussion with, like, I view Travis Hunter as mostly like I think it's just impossible. Nobody has any idea what the usage is going to look like. So
Agreed.
Like I can't sit here and say like one way or another. Now I agree that, like, to me, from an NFL standpoint, if I'm drafting Travis Hunter and I know he could be in a generational level cornerback, which I think is the case, I think the NFL would view that more positively than the receiver Travis Hunter. I think, like, I love both players, but I worry about if you're my biggest concern with him overall is just health. I don't know. He's not a big guy. He's super slender. He's got very slender legs. I wonder how he's going to hold up over time. And to me, he's going to take a lot more abuse on offense than defense. So I would feel better about playing him majority on defense. Now, where that factors into fantasy, obviously, like if he's playing 66 snaps, 66% of the snaps on defense and 33 on offense, I don't feel nearly as good about him, clearly, because it's just not the amount of usage that you would expect from a high first round pick in Dynasty, right? So
No, it's just I think there's a range of outcomes, and I think one of the outcomes is that he's low usage on offense in the future. I think his rookie year, he's going to be hyped, he's going to have high energy, all that stuff. I think when year 3 rolls around and we want a contract and things like that, then it becomes like, I got to count my money, not my snap count. Like,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I think
it
that'll
could get
become more of a
interesting.
thing.
It
But
could get interesting. But anywho, the point I guess I'm trying to get at here is I don't think it's right away going to be like he's not going to like Brian Thomas to me is just a standalone for like you don't even have to consider Travis Hunter that much into the equation for specifically for this year. Because I as much as I didn't love him leaving the Bucks, Liam Cohen ran a fucking great offense last year, and
for
he
sure.
knows how to feature his guys, and he knows how to work a big, tall, rangy receiver like Mike Evans. I mean, Brian Thomas, I'm not going to sit here and say he's Mike Evans, but there's similarities to the games that they play. They're both great on in cutters. They're both great down the field. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be the Mike Evans of this offense, and I think it's going to work. Just because I still somewhat believe in Trevor Lawrence, but I mostly believe in Liam Cohen's offense because I think it's so unique and it's so interesting. They mix and match everything, and he's going to get his chances for one-on-ones. And I like Brian Thomas in those situations. Anywho, we can
Same.
wrap that up there.
We're both all in. We both think both these players are ones, but it's the rest of the room that, I mean,
is Brian Thomas a first-round redraft player?
no.
I think he's like probably at the top end of the second for me.
No, there's too many good running backs now. I mean, like
there's
5,
a lot of good running
6,
backs.
7 years ago, we had like a running back void, but right now,
our league is just so different than consensus. So
I think Jefferson may even be dangers like being in that 8, 9, 10 spot. I think Chase is a lock. He's going in the top like 6. But
yeah, that's fair.
I think it's going to be like I think there may only be one wide receiver in the top 6 being
I
Chase.
see Puka in the first sometimes, and it makes me puke.
No.
Puka. I puke.
Brian Thomas and Puka is a good like. I could go back and forth between which one I would want. I think Brian Thomas has the higher floor, but if Puka gets his touchdown game together and has like starts getting the touchdowns to go with his yards, it's going to be disgusting.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to stop. So anyway, let's get to this wide receiver 3. And like we got guys, but like I don't feel very strongly about frankly any of the guys, let alone the talent of some of these guys. I mean, there's a few guys that, I think we're just looking at, they're kind of lottery tickets. Like, do you see it the same way here?
Yeah, I do. And let's talk more about like, I guess, dynasty philosophical. How many wide receivers do you think you need to be a championship team? I would say you have to have at least 4
I was going to say
week-to-week
5
starters with 2 that have flex appeal for a total of basically 6 guys that you could feel good about. 4 that you really need to feel good about, but 2 that are like more like, it'll happen here and there.
Yeah, that's fair. You need 3 starters, obviously, and then probably 1 or 2 in the flex.
This question can change based on how good your running back room. But we already just said the running back room kind of suffers from a similar problem. We have 2 guys, and then, what else do we really have?
From a roster construction standpoint, if your starters are Henderson, Judkins, right, a running back, you might even, at this point, because we don't know what we have in either one of them, you might even start Jordan Mason at this point as the 1 or 2.
If we're blending the rooms together, Jordan Mason is the 5th best player of the combined. It's the 2 running backs.
That's the point I'm getting at. The flex spots for this team, it's not going to look pretty. It's just
it's not good.
It's just not going to look pretty right now.
Is it the worst flexes in the league? But besides the 2
I was going to say, Alex and Dan would be.
They don't count. They're not playing. Of the 8 people actually playing PHU Dynasty football this year,
I would say it's at the bottom for sure.
Because I like Dustin's more. I mean, Dustin just has higher value. He has higher value warm bodies. Yeah. We don't have to get into it because that's not what this podcast is about. But like, just Dustin's 3 through 9, I feel better about. Like with James, there's a possibility wide receivers 3 through 12 on this team, which are the only ones I think are keepable. I think Cooks, MVS, and Robinson are basically cuttable. And I think depending on how camp goes, could get cut by this team. But
Yeah, I
of
mean,
those wide receivers 3 through 12, there may only be 10 like total weeks where they're like scoring 10 or more points. Like, how many weeks is Roman Wilson going to score 15 fantasy points this year?
I Wilson truly is like, we know nothing. Like we literally know nothing. He didn't do anything last year and was injured, so you just didn't see anything at all. Which is like that. That's the worst scenario you could possibly be in. Because at least with Coleman, like there was some reason to believe that, like, oh, okay, he was on the field, he did make some plays here and there, but like we haven't seen him at all. Which is
But
like that. That's not a good feeling.
in this like numbers game we kind of talked about, like 6, like, you know, is Roman Wilson worthy of a starting position? Jalen Royals, Cedric Tillman, Kayshon Boutte? No,
Probably
they're
not.
not.
No, I mean, like Tillman is a high upside. Like to me, out of these guys, this grouping of players, like I think Tillman has, a lot of untapped potential, but he's on the fucking Browns, so it's like
Yes,
that's like from a
but I
talent
do like
perspective, I
him.
like the guy,
Yeah.
and I think he's got like prototype, wide receiver, X wide receiver size. Like I don't. If it's gonna be Dylan Gabriel throwing him the ball or whatever, like I don't even fucking know. Like I don't feel good about that right
The
now.
offense may only have 3,400 passing yards the entire year, spread out across everybody. That's being generous,
I think
almost,
Njoku
honestly.
is the best receiver, like outside of Judy at this point. So like, I mean, I don't, I just don't want any part of the Browns, frankly.
Well, and we're also then like we're starting 2 Browns week to week. Oof,
Doesn't feel good. Doesn't
doesn't
feel
feel
good.
good. But
No, and yes, I mean, like and I'll just say like just quickly on Keon Coleman because I think he's like obviously that trade with McCaffrey was Coleman, Wilson, and some other assets.
mhm.
With Coleman, like there were moments last year that you saw the flashes, but I will say this in defense of Coleman because I still like the guy somewhat. Um, he was hurt last year. He did have a wrist injury towards the end of the year. He didn't get the full rookie season of experience that you would like to see. And I think they were playing him out of position. Like Sean has talked about this on the podcast as well. Like he kind of profiles as like a big slot that wins down the field, and they're trying to use him outside X as a route runner. And I think it's just because of his body type and the draft capital and all that. But it's like at some point, the Bills have to like look at the rest of their team with you got a lot of smaller guys like Shakir. Even Josh Palmer's not a huge guy. I think he's 6 feet.
Mhm.
I forgot who else. Curtis Samuel. Like there's smaller guys. It's like this is the guy that has to step up right now for the Bills. Otherwise, they're going to be back in the same spot next year, drafting another receiver next year.
Well, and,
And
and if they do that, Keon's done.
yeah, he's toast. And that's kind of where it comes back to this team. It's like this is like as I almost consider this a contract year for Keon Coleman because it's like you're
Mhm.
playing for your job next year. So like if he cannot do it this season, I think we got nothing there.
Well, I think from a dynasty standpoint, it's a contract year because like your upside kind of goes out the window if you face plant again. It's
Yeah.
like,
No, you can't do nothing again. It's not
yeah.
possible. Like it's
Not
not
well, this
allowed.
offense is too good. They're begging for wide receivers. They're trading for Amari Cooper mid-year, trying to just get and squeeze the rags, the last little bit of talent out, and they're just they don't have enough. There's still Josh Allen still has to run it, and they're still coming
It's
up
the same
short in the
thing with
playoff.
Dalton Kincaid. It's the same exact thing. Like he didn't step up last year.
Nope, it is
Everybody thought he was
exactly
going
the
to
same.
take that next
He's
year.
another
It's the same
disappointment.
concept. So it's like
Yep.
they need one of those guys. Frankly, they need both of those guys, but they need at least one of those guys to really take that step forward. And like
Truthfully,
I don't want to bet on Coleman because I just don't think
no.
he's that good of a receiver. I think he's a good pass catcher. I don't think he's a good receiver, which makes like he doesn't have the route running chops. He's not there. And like, I knew that when I drafted him. I was like, this is a long shot. This is an
He was a
upside play.
project.
He was a project, absolutely.
We also like
You're
to
not
put
waiting for him.
lazily because we all like to like our players more. We like to put a lot of his issues on Travis Hunter not being able to throw the ball. Or not
Um,
Travis Hunter. What's his name at FSU? The quarterback.
Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. Yeah,
Yeah.
wrong Travis.
I mean, all those plays with him and Johnny Wilson, and all that, they were just like chucked in. It was whoosh football. James knows what whoosh football is all about. You just chuck it up, whoosh, you throw it down the field, and hopefully somebody comes down with it. Like it's part of the game plan. But like in the NFL, that shit just doesn't fly. Like the only person it seems to fly for is George Pickens right now. So it's like you just chuck it down the field and he just makes a play. So that's not the way that Josh Allen plays, though. Like he likes guys that are open, like any other quarterback. It's the NFL. You're not just going to be open, just because of your hands. Like that's just not going to work. I mean, I could tell you, you're talking to the king of the jackass can't separate receiver club. Like this is that kind of guy. This is why the Armadillos drafted him, because we love these kind of guys. But we just hope that they hit. So I don't know. I feel like Coleman, I think his value at 4,300 on Dynasty, keep trade cut value. I feel like it's a little high, to be honest with you, based on what we saw.
I was going to bring that up too. So let me read you a player equivalent to him. Khalil Shakir is 2 spots, 2 wide receivers ahead of him on keep trade cut.
Only 2?
That's not good though. Like for Keon Coleman, it's like, wait, you're the younger player. You're 22 years old, even with a year of NFL experience in your belt. You have better draft capital. Like you also profile as like, again, 6'4", all those things. Like you should be the guy. And Khalil Shakir is passing you in not only dynasty value but also redraft value too. It really feels like Keon Coleman at this point is nothing but just praying for that upside because of being in a high power offense. And obviously again he was picked 33 IRL. Like that's
I mean, it was the first pick of the second round. And I don't want to sound like too big of a hater here. I just, what my perspective is, because I drafted him again. Like this is a guy that when he came into the league, everybody and their brother knew that this was a project player, right? So this is like we didn't expect him to come in and just Brian Thomas all of a sudden. Like nobody saw that, or Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors or whatever.
True.
Like that's just not what he was supposed to be. And he's still very young. Like he was 21 as a rookie.
22.
Yeah, so he's only 22. He was hurt last year. So, and he's also the kind of guy, like from a personality perspective, like I could see him really putting in the work and making it happen. So like,
I agree.
I don't want to sit here and like shred him too bad, but like we're talking about, this is the wide receiver 3 of this team is what I'm trying to get at here, is that we have a lot of projects, even like Roman Wilson, like we saw nothing. Kayshon Boutte, who I thought was pretty talented towards the end of the year. He looked pretty good, but like that whole room and offense is just an absolute wild card at this point, where we don't know what's going to happen. And then Jalen Royals, who has the 5th highest value here, is kind of a handcuff to Rashee Rice at this point. So I don't really know where the production is going to come from. And I think it's definitely, it's just kind of we're going to have to wait and see if any of these guys pop off. I'm just not betting on it.
No, but now we come back to like what we said. So we have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers that we really, really like and trust, but we only have 2 first-round picks. We basically have to make 3+ solid flex players at least come out of that. The math ain't mathin'.
We need, this team needs quality depth, and
yes,
I think obviously that can come in rounds 2, 3, 4, whatever. But you're obviously we all know the percentages of the picks as you get down the board start to drop, right? Like, and even on our, I think, which we probably need to do another one, is one of those dynasty draft or rookie draft deep dives to see hit rates and whatnot, and maybe refine that process. But the hit rates, if you're hitting 20, 30, 40%, like that's not good. It doesn't, and that's kind of like normal for those later rounds. So I think it's going to be tough to rebuild the depth of this team with the picks they have. Like James is going to have to be in the film room. That's just what he's going to have to be staying up late, grinding the tape on these rookies for the next couple of years, because he's going to need 3rd rounders to hit. He's going to need 2nd rounders to hit, or he's going to have to trade one of these big players for depth, which I don't think is a good idea.
No, that's a tough pill to swallow. James is a plus fantasy player, no doubt in my mind, that if he has one lingering
good moves,
flex.
for sure.
So what?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, if he has one lingering flex, I believe he could find a week-to-week guy with his like depth and other players. Like, hey, this player is actually getting snaps because this player is hurt or something. Like James is very smart about that stuff. I have no doubt.
Demarcus Robinson has made a living off of that,
and James started the fuck out of him too. But there's too many of those holes right now. There's just too many. We
Oh
only
yeah.
really have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. We again, like, it came off like we were shredding Keon Coleman, but we're only shredding Keon Coleman because he's a starter. He's a wide receiver 3
Yeah, if he was number
week to
6 on
week.
this list, I'm not even concerned.
Yeah, but he's the 3rd best wide receiver week to week, and I think that's what makes this a tough pill to swallow. Um, eh, then after that, again, like, we just don't have enough high upside guys that I feel good enough that there's 3 more guaranteed starting wide receivers in
Nope.
this group. Um, and I know it's hard. My wide receivers suck dick. Like, I get it. It's tough to find those guys, and sometimes you think you have them, you move 1 or 2 of them, and then you're like, another guy gets hurt, and then you're left with nothing or with
It
way
is
less than you
interesting.
thought you had.
Like receivers, especially in your flex, like they evaporate so fast. It's like even last year, like I thought I had the receiver depth, and then I'm like, oh no, I gotta start that guy. It's like I don't want to start this guy. But like that's just what happens because they are volatile. They get hurt all the time. They're always banged up and sometimes they just don't get the targets on a week to week basis. Even though they're good, like it just happens.
James and I have talked about this in the past that, like, wide receivers are overrated their longevity. The really great ones have longevity, but most wide receivers are like running backs where they only really have one great contract of value. And after that, it's a little bit tougher to get these guys to be consistently good after that. Wide receiver definitely is higher than running back, but I don't think it's as good as we've made it out to be. Um, in the past.
I think that's a really fair statement because if you really like, especially in the NFL, if you look at if a I think it's damning if your receiver makes it to free agency. Like let's say James has Keon Coleman make it to free agency, and he doesn't get re-signed by the Bills. It's almost a death sentence at this point because like you look at De'Ami Browns and Gabe Davis. Now these are all Jags, but like there's other guys throughout the league that they end up on these other teams and it just doesn't work out the same. They're not quite what they thought they were, as a prospect or whatever the case may be. Unless you have like CeeDee Lamb and DeAndre Hopkins, like these guys from the past, where we just knew yeah, like this is going to be an 8 to 10 year player. There's just not that many of those guys. They're
No,
just
you're hoping for a Christian Kirk,
yeah,
a
like
guy who was
just a
mid
solid
most of
player.
his career and then got lucky that a team overpaid for him, and because they overpaid, now he's going to get more targets to boot. It kind of like artificially increases the time, but most wide receivers are more like the trajectory of, like, I don't know, like a Sterling Shepard type where it's like, oh, he was a nice pick, he still has upside, and then before you know it, it's like, he stayed in the league 10 years, but was he really a fantasy player that time? Not really.
Like he was just like a 600-yard guy. Yeah, I hate to say it, but like a Darius Slayton is kind of in the same. Like they end up being a little bit cloggy at times.
The
Like they
difference is, I guess, that, like, Sterling Shepard, like, I drafted him with a first round pick.
sure,
I
yeah, like
picked
a first
Darius
round
Slayton off
receiver. Yeah,
waivers.
great
But I'm just
point.
saying the
Yeah,
perception is wide receivers last so much longer. And so that's why people try to, like, load up on wide receivers. But I just think
it's
that
only
they're
the good ones that last. That's the
only the good
problem.
ones that last. And
That's
they
the problem.
can be 2, 3, like Devontae Adams is 32 years old and still can command respect in this league. But not that's more of like an outlier, I think. I think a lot of these receivers get churned more than we in the dynasty community kind of give credit for. Um,
I think once you
that's
get
just
past
kind of my
30 in
opinion.
general, just like it's just like a perfect example is like Cooper Cup this year, right? Like he burned hot for a hot minute there, but now he had a couple injuries and I think he just maybe turned 30 if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
yeah,
So
he's
like
actually a
and
little
he's
older.
already kind of like being disregarded at this point,
He's
which is like
32,
so there. Okay, so he's
a little
even older
older.
than I thought he was. So, but like that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, like that's the almost the best case scenario for a third round rookie or whatever he was, and like that's just not common. Like it's just you don't see it often. So,
No,
anywho, that's a really interesting talking point because we do mention all the time. That's like, oh, it's better to shoot your shot on a receiver, but you got to make sure you get a good one. That's the problem. It's not that easy.
no, it's not, and I've really struggled on that for years. So I'm speaking more from experience that, like, it's really tough. But James has the hardest part done. He has wide receiver ones. Now
Yeah.
we just have to find twos and threes to fill this out. Um, when James is ready to compete, there will inevitably be teams ready to step back and trade some of those guys up. Maybe a Scavelli wants to move Mike Evans back to James or something like that.
Yeah,
So
even
he'll
Tibbs could move off some guys.
Tibbs, yeah, and maybe he finds a way to trade him. Like there is
Retool.
ways to create these players. So like I'm not lamenting that James is screwed. He's in the best. He's in really good shape. He's got 2 1s, but as it stands right now, this wide receiver core is not good enough to compete this year. And when I look at it, I only see like probably 4 or 5 guys outside of those 2 studs that we mentioned that I really think could have long-term value. Like, I hate to say it, but basically every player number 8 beyond on that list, with the exception of Nick Nash, is cooked in my mind. Right?
I'm a big Parker Washington guy, so I like still have some hope for Parker Washington. But even then, it's like he's gonna be the number 3 at best. Like, what do you
Yeah,
do?
and here's the thing: if Parker Washington has value, it may come at the expense of Brian Thomas.
Yeah, so it's not gonna help this roster at all. So, all right,
Yeah, like
let's go to tight ends. We can move on here. But yeah, I
yeah,
see what you're saying. Like there's literally, I think 10 through 15 on that list could all just get the axe, and it's not even a big deal.
yeah,
Um,
but he'll be all right. He's got the ones, like we said.
yeah, the
Tight
ones
end.
tight end is a fun one
Is it this team has struggled at tight end for decades,
for centuries.
but it didn't matter. He won titles just blowing
Didn't
through
matter.
having bad tight
It
ends.
didn't matter.
So
It didn't matter at all.
it's doable. And compared to those days, this may be the best tight end core we've had in years.
I think from a Lambs perspective, I mean, I think the Lambs fans are going to the locker room or going to the team stores to go buy some jerseys because I think this might be the time. They're trying to get them early while they're cheap, and I think like if you just look at like I hate to say it, but 2 of my favorite guys in the league are 5 and 6. I'm not even they're cuts, but Stone Smart, Jelani Woods, let them go.
They are.
But
They're cuts.
the other 4 guys really have like legitimate intrigue. Maybe not as Otten as much because I think we kind of know what Otten is. That being said, when Otten was kind of more of a featured person of the offense last year, when Godwin was out, when Evans was out, he looked pretty fucking good. So I don't even want to say that he doesn't have upside. It's just the rest of that roster is just so stacked offensively.
This tight end room is probably, as I'm looking at like all of them, is probably the most underrated in the league.
I think it's pretty good.
It has a lot of good young guys. It has 3 good young guys in my opinion. It's like a solid guy in Kate Otten too. But if you look around the NFL, there aren't a lot of great tight ends, man. It's
No, to
kind of
have
rough out there.
4 that have some level of upside is
Yeah.
not easy to do. And this is coming from somebody that loves scouting tight ends and trying to collect them like infinity stones. There's there This is one of the rooms that I look around all the different teams that we have in the league. This is the one I'm
Yeah.
like most interested to watch this year, frankly.
Yeah.
So
I
because
mean, I
they
would say other than
all
you and I, this is probably like this is definitely one of the most intriguing ones because like Scavelli is one of the best tight end rooms, but it's all veterans like Evan Ingram, George Kittle.
yeah, like we know what we got there.
We know what we got there. Roster clog extraordinaire, Michael Mayer. We know what we got there. James has guys where like we could be talking about this team next year having like 3 starting tight ends
Yeah,
with
I mean,
Jatavian Sanders, Gadsden, and Loveland.
I think I do want to say this. Like, I know Gadsden has caught a little bit of hype so far.
A lot of hype.
Jim Harbaugh just loves. He'll hype anybody. He hyped Stone Smart last year, for God's sake. So like, and Stone Smart had like 200 yards. Like it might just end up being a big nothing burger. But that being
Yeah.
said, like Gadsden in college was very productive with Kyle McCord in Syracuse at the tight end position. He's kind of more of just like a big receiver. They they said in the media, they're like, oh yeah, we think he can block really well. It's like
His dad was a wide receiver in the NFL
sure
too.
was. Yeah.
So I like that as well. He's got the
There's upside.
genes.
There's
He
upside.
he knows what it takes in that regard. I really also love the value where James got Colston Loveland, and I think that needs to get talked about a bit.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
really awesome value. And when you're building a dynasty team, like we said, like we lamented with the running back and wide receiver, like It's tough to find these flex guys. Well, guess how you make up those margins? By getting a tight end like Colston Loveland in the middle of the second round, where in some drafts where he got Loveland is a dead zone. The dead zone's begun. Like that's the cutoff sometimes where good players kind of are gone. But James is now getting a tight end who what is he on Keep Trade Cut in tight end? He's got to be at what, tight end
Tight end
6?
5.
Yeah,
Tight
let me
end
look
5
it
as it
up.
stands right now.
He's tight end 5? Yeah, there
That's
you
what it
go.
says here, at least. What my interest in Loveland is the fact that if you, especially because I did a ton of work on Bowers, obviously, like from a stylistic standpoint, there's not a significant gap between their the way they play the game. Like Loveland is not a blocker. I don't care what anybody says. He's a flex tight end, a Y tight end, whatever you want to call him,
Mhm.
where he's going to get moved around. He's part of an offense with a tremendous offensive mind. I liked him. I liked Warren more for the NFL, and I
Yep.
like Loveland more for fantasy. So I would have had no problem taking him in this rookie draft. I think I had like picked 1 or 2 or whatever this year. Like I would have taken him if I didn't already have 3 tight ends that I felt good about. So like I think he had the talent to go in the first round, and he was the top 10 overall NFL pick, which is like the golden. I mean, out of all the years that we've watched the NFL draft, like you just know that these guys are going to at least be on the field to some extent.
Mhm.
So that's a huge piece of the puzzle. But from an upside standpoint, I just think Loveland can be a difference making player in the middle of the field for an offense that, obviously has a lot of pieces, but just like from an instant return on value standpoint, like there really could be legitimate, tight end 1 potential for year 1 if it all falls the right way.
Oh, yeah, and listen, let's keep it real. I'm not gonna bullshit you guys. If there isn't Colston Loveland in this tight end room, it gets significantly worse.
Oh yeah.
Because as much as I like, Kate Otten is more of a like week to week hope and pray for a touchdown. Jatavian Sanders and Gadsden are more of your classic, like you gotta just keep having young
You churn
lottery
him.
ticket tight ends to
Yeah.
churn and just say, hey, tight end stuff out there. Maybe in 3 years this guy is gonna be tight end 1. A tight end 1, not the tight end 1, but a
Sure.
tight end 1, a back end 1 or something, gets like a spike year. You got to collect these guys because you just never know. Colston Loveland falling to James is how he gets a guy at tight end, like a starter at tight end, who has draft capital that even if he face plants this year, you could still, like a Kyle Pitts, go into next year. Well, Kyle Pitts had a good rookie year, but you get my point still. How Kyle Pitts has kept his value for years and years and years despite playing poorly because he had draft capital to boot with it. Like Colston Loveland is in that mold, and not saying he's going to face plant. I'm just meant more like that he can retain value at tight end 5 already. Like it, James got him in the second round, like phenomenal, awesome value. And really, if if you're James, what more do you really need to do to this tight end room? Maybe a guy falls to you in the 4th next year. Other than that, there's nothing else needs to be done.
No, and I'll finish the thought on Loveland that I hate to even say the name because it's almost like sacrilege at this point. But his like absolute floor to me is like Kobe Fleener, where he's a really high draft pick, and he's kind of that flex, route runny type tight end, has those good years. But even because of his draft capital, he's still not going to just flame out or whatever. Like he's gonna be on the field and make plays. It just might not be tight end 2 or 3 or whatever. It might be more like tight end 8 or 9 or something.
I'll
I
give
don't
you one. I'll give you
Sure.
one.
I like
Eric
those.
Ebron is actually, I think,
Yeah,
is
he's a
the
number 8
floor.
overall pick, I think.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. I knew he was a
Like they're
first.
just around. They're just like around. They just find a way to stay around, which is
Well,
fine. So like he's a
and
second
then
round
before
pick.
you know it, he has a resurgent year out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
he can. I think even Kobe Fleener had like solid years. Like there were years where it's like, oh shit, yeah, he's a player. Um, so like anyway, like that's his like to me that's the floor, which is more than acceptable, especially because Kate Otten is kind of just like a floor guy himself, where he's going to catch his 30, 40 yards, whatever it's going to be. But my point here is that like to your point of like what else do we need to do here? My answer is nothing
Yeah,
because
nothing.
what I at least for my tight end room, what I like to do is I like a bona fide starter as my 1. I like a floor guy as a 2, which to me is kind of like a Jake Ferguson type. And then my 3 and 4, I most I'll probably roster at this point is 4. My 3 and 4 are always just high upside random jackasses with
Yep.
like either athleticism or there's something tangible that I can say, okay, yeah, like I could see that working out. James has all that right here. So like
And if you
I
can't,
think it's
hold
great.
on, get more of those upside guys, then you get another week-to-week asshat. Hey, maybe you'll get a touchdown. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't get a rookie, that's kind
Yeah.
of that's my philosophy is you got to get your stud,
You
then you
dive
go
into the
for
Will Disleys.
exactly.
You
Then
just
you
go,
get your little like week-to-week asshole, and then you get your upside guys. And
there's
James right now he has a good young upside one, and then he has, like we said, his week-to-week asshole in Kate Otten, and he's got two young guys that could be something, could be nothing. I say you don't need to do anything. This room is good enough. I would even say if the rest of this team was good enough to compete, that this room could even get you by if the rest of the team was competing. If
yeah, I
you
think it would
put
be
this
no problem.
really, actually, is this room better than Tibbs's room? I think so.
You got Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and what's the other
I
option?
don't even know. Dalton
Dalton
Schultz.
Schultz.
Yeah, this is better.
I mean,
This is better.
I from a dynasty standpoint, probably yeah.
I'm
Like just
taking this in redraft almost too because I think Colston Loveland's the best player of the bunch. So if it's a redraft
he's the
standpoint,
best player,
I
but is
really want
Mark
the
Andrews
best tight
more
end.
established though? A little bit more touchdown
Oof.
upside.
But he also remember how bad he was in the beginning of the year. Like
Yeah, and he
it's just
flowed
like
the
he's
playoff game.
older. Ugh.
He's not that old.
I know he's not, but he
He's
looks old.
I know.
He looks
Every time I see him,
old.
he's like, I this guy's 36 for sure, but like he's literally like 28 or 29 or something.
I think the issue is I like right now Isaiah Likely has more value on keep trade cut than Mark Andrews. You know, this isn't the Tibbs podcast, but like, which
I
one are
didn't even
you
know that.
starting week
That's
to
kind of
week and
amazing.
feeling good about?
I mean, like I know which I'd start Andrews. You just got to start Andrews.
Me
So
too. I don't feel good about it. I
it
really
doesn't
don't
feel
want
nice.
either. I just don't want to be involved. I'd rather have Colston Loveland.
Yeah, I guess yeah. At least because there's always a chance that Loveland ends up popping off and being like that big guy that you always wanted, right? It's like it's the mystery box.
He-
So
Yeah, just I'm just saying if we switch the tight end rooms, then the Lambs would be ready, or the Lion the Cheese Fries would be a better team if they had the Lambs tight end room, which I don't think something we'd say. But so yeah, I like the room. I think it has enough. Uh, I guess yeah, that concludes the tight ends.
yeah, I mean we spent zero time talking about JT Sanders there, but like I feel like
Oh,
at
true.
least like from last year's perspective as a prospect, he was kind of like one of those higher upside type prospects,
Still is.
not great draft capital, but he got decent capital last year. But like this is a second year. Tight ends just take a while to get going, frankly. And that's why like I do want to kind of temper expectations for Loveland a little just because there is a learning curve there. Especially because he's also kind of going to have the same I feel like it's a very similar type situation for Loveland to like a Dalton Kincaid from a couple years ago with Dawson Knox kind of being that true, inline Y tight end the inline tight end where it's like, he's going to be on the field. They're both going to be on the field, but they're going to kind of like cannibalize each other just a little bit. I don't see Cole Kmet just like falling, fading into the night or anything like that. But
No, I don't either.
it's going to be a process, but I like Loveland's odds for sure. But JT Sanders, there's no other threat on this team except for the shitty Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas blocking tight ends that really have nothing to offer from a from a dynasty fantasy asset. So like JT Sanders is the obvious choice. If you're going for a high upside choice towards tight end 27, I like him a lot more probably than some of the other guys on this list ahead of him.
I agree with you, and I think that worst case scenario is he just turns into one of those like Tommy Tremble type guys. Then you just cut him and move on. But
Yeah, there's no risk.
no,
There's like no
he
problem.
has upside, and he could still be a week to week starter in this league. I could see it at tight end. It's just one of those things like you just need time. But James isn't reliant on him. It's just an upside guy,
It's
like
nice to have.
not his
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, like you said, 3 and 4 is kind of the slots that you want to just kind of like play around with and just see what you got and mix and match and shuffle them around. But I think the whole of this team is it's like I think we need to start maybe classifying this team as should be fun to watch, not probably winning anything this year. I think that's kind of where we're at, where it's like let's see let's see what the rookies got, because this is a big rookie year for him. But then let's also see what these second years guys, like these JT Sanders, the Keon Coleman's, the Roman Wilsons, like we got to see what we got here. And then, because that's going to shape what we're going to end up doing next year and how we're going to try to attack this. Because like you said, like out of all these rebuilding teams we've seen recently, the draft capital for the Lambs is not like eye popping. We don't have, a zillion picks to work with here. We got to make good picks here coming up next year.
No, I mean, he has. If you look at Keep Trade Cut here, it says he has the second most draft capital. But if you look at it,
look at this giant. Look at this stack. Hold on a second. Look at this
that
monster stack. This is what I was getting at earlier. I wanted to bring this. I didn't even know they had this on Keep Trade Cut, but look at these stacks. MVS, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shough, Brandon Cooks. These are monster stacks.
These stakes.
Yeah, but here's the picks. Actually, this is a good high level.
Yeah, you can organize it into the league though, like how you had.
Oh yeah. Let me go back there.
I can even send you the link if you.
I think I can. Find
yeah,
it
yeah,
here.
It's that one.
One of these.
It's the
Picks
power
only,
rankings, and then do draft picks. Okay, so look, Dustin has 99. James is in second place, but he's only in second place with 39. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like even the plague, like with I think I'd rather have 4 firsts than 3 firsts and 2 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with that too, especially because he has 2 and 27.
Yeah, the 27 ones mean a lot to me personally. So like yeah, I mean the thing I think another piece of this is that nobody in this league is really like crushing it draft capital wise outside of the Elk. So
no, that's my point though, is like we're all kind of in the same boat, and like we're talking about James's team needing like a solid 3 to 5 flex players to really get on the level of top contenders in this league, like Tibbs, or
and we
Sean.
got 5 premium picks. I mean, we just have 5 premium picks. That's kind of like that means we basically have to hit on at least half of them.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you have 4 premium picks still, and like I still have my 2 firsts, 2 seconds for the next 2 years.
Well, I hate
Like,
to say premium picks because like my view of a premium pick is picks 1 through 2.5. That's
agreed.
like generally speaking, it's the top 15 guys.
But that's
like
why I
some
just
of
say
these might,
seconds now, because we don't
yeah,
know.
like a second is tough to gauge unless you're Alex's second or whatever, right? So
then we know it's a guaranteed.
then you're 2 1 2 2, right? So that's then premium. You're in the premium asset.
James's team, I think, is going to be a week-to-week feisty team because he has upside, like you said. He's going to be fun to watch. And really, James is just a good fantasy player. You're going to see James starting people in the flex, and you're going to be like, wait, I just saw that on Red Zone. I didn't know I was playing against him. What the fuck? And
Yeah,
it's going to be like,
James is once again in the Scavelli type category where it's like I'm not betting against these guys when it comes to just finding a way to make shit happen. Like it's just gonna work one way or another, whether it be the flex plays or like you said, a random jackass that goes off on red zone like a Demarcus Robinson or MVS or some random ass player that just happens to make it work. Like I would not bet against these owners.
listen, T. Higgins will miss 4 games, and James will start Andre Suavis, or however you say his name,
No, Yoshibashi, yeah.
and he'll get some points. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I know he will. And he'll probably get him against me and probably beat me one week because I think we play twice, so we'll probably split.
James will start JT Sanders on the 1 week he has a touchdown.
In the flex.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
And Colston Loveland.
It's just going to happen.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess the moral of the story is, like, we don't have enough now. We could have enough in the future because this team has the hardest part of building kind of done in that he has 2 wide receivers. He has 2 really good running backs. He has a quarterback and tight end room that at least have enough pieces that nothing needs like, hey, you have to trade to be viable at this quarterback room or this tight end room. Like Tibbs's quarterback room was not viable before the Josh Allen pick. It was Anthony Richardson and like Dak Prescott and like Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
it wasn't viable. Like James is not in that position. He's viable. He just needs an infusion of flex players. And I think that will come in time, but I don't think he'll be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think his cap is this year? Like, is it 7?
No, I think he could be a playoff team, but I think he'll be the 7th team. Yeah, I do. I think he'll be 7th or 8th. let's see. When you look at starters again, it has James at 7th, and it has the Toronto Battle Axes behind him.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
think that's going to
this.
happen.
Yeah.
I think he'll be 7th, and I think somebody could be behind him, but I also think there's a chance James could be 8th.
Is there? This is the only other question. I'll finish on this. Is there a route to James getting one of the top two picks? Is there a route to the premium draft capital?
No, I don't
Is it,
think
or
so.
is it just is
Unless
it just
disaster
so
strikes. I don't think James wants those picks. I think if James got those picks through his own volition, something went really, really, really wrong, and I don't think he
right?
wants that.
Like my thought process is if the plague maybe don't move off of some of these guys that we think he should move and just kind of holds and waits for better value or whatever and just like gets gets a couple wins or whatever, and then like we're talking about these running backs where we just don't there's just the depth that just isn't quite there from a starting perspective, and he ends up in armadillo territory and you're just starting Jalen Warrens every week. Like
No,
is he still
no,
not 9?
no, it's not. It's not
Okay, just
possible
I was just
because
asking the
it's like
question.
look at Dan's running backs. It's J.K. Dobbins and Taj Brooks. Like
It's not
that's
good.
already James is like 3 and 4.
Yeah, then
Like
we're
James has 2 full running backs better,
yep, you're right. You're
and
absolutely right.
Lamb and JJ is a push for me.
Yeah, Jet Lamb and JJ. So then you're basically like up
Give me
against six.
Brian Thomas versus all of Dan's receiving
Yeah,
core.
it doesn't matter who's left at that point. Yeah, that's a very
I'll,
fair point. I was just trying to see if there was like what's the ceiling, what's the floor.
truthfully, combine the two teams, and actually, we maybe have a team that could compete for the playoffs. Because like DK and
That'll be
Devontae
a sick
Adams
receiving room.
be a great receiving group. It
You
really
say
would.
just Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas, CeeDee Lamb. Are you fucking kidding me?
We'd still be talking about how the running back room doesn't have enough.
It's true.
We'd
Well,
still
it's
be
just because look at Dan's little pellets down here. Taj Brooks, J.K. Dobbins. But
So
that's dynasty value. That's not even like Taj Brooks is literally not usable as it stands right now.
it's not
Like
usable.
you can't put him in your lineup. Like hold on, we gotta go do some research. Let's look at these
Market
running.
research.
Let's do some research. We gotta do some. This is yeah, it's real bad.
It's so bad. Eh?
Jerome Ford. Okay, so Nick Chubb, there's just
That's our RB2 week 1.
we got veteran presence. And then
Kareem Hunt probably is more usable than the others, but even still is like, are you starting in are you trotting him out week 1 and feeling good? No, absolutely not.
Jaden Blue or Kareem Hunt right now.
Jaden Blue.
Oh,
Jordan Mason too. Jordan Mason would be the starter on Dan's team in my mind.
okay, he's RB1
Over
for sure.
Dobbins.
He's over one. Yeah, RB1. Yeah, no doubt about it.
He's the RB1 on his team. Like, it's just no way that I think James does not want to bottom out to that level.
Trevor Etienne's bubble is way too large, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's too big. Why is that so big?
They had to fit a T and an E in there, and the E's are kind of long.
I thought it was tight end. I didn't even think about Trevor Etienne.
James wants to be more of the sneaky team that wows you with random rookies, like the guys that we were talking about. Like, will this guy hit? Will he not? We don't know. James wants those guys to hit, and he wows you. Like, oh, wow, Ollie Gordon's just been so good. He's been just getting more carries as the year goes on. And like, oh, actually, Keon Coleman really is hitting on that upside. Like, James wants to be beating teams because of that. And I think that is a possibility. I just don't think there's enough of it to be a playoff team this year. I think that when
next year we're looking better.
What?
I think next year we're in much better shape.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think when these guys mature a bit, not really these guys like the studs, the Hendersons, the Judkins, would these guys like the Jalen Royals and like some of these other lottery ticket type players, when they have a chance to see what they are, and then next year when James has more capital, another 2 firsts, a second, 2/3, 2/4, that's when it'll start to be that feisty team that may challenge for a playoff spot. And I hate to say this, especially as a team like maybe a Scavelli takes another step back as a lot of these older guys get another year older. That like maybe Scavelli's a playoff team this year, but maybe next year James is taking that spot from him. And I think that is the goal from James. And if it's not, it's the more realistic one in my mind, is that this year you're just a feisty team, but next year he's taking my playoff spot, Scavelli's playoff spot, maybe even Sean's playoff spot, somebody who had been around for the last couple of years, but now he's trying to capitalize on a down year from them with maybe young upside that he does have.
Yeah, he's got it. And like I think from just a rebuild standpoint in general, like I would say generally speaking, like 3 years is kind of like in year three, you're really like, okay, we gotta get this shit, let's get the shit off the ground here. Let's get to the
Mhm.
playoffs. But like if you make some noise this year, like I think we're ahead of schedule. So I think we're doing fine and from that standpoint. Like
I
and
agree, and
maybe it's
remember,
not as hard of a rebuild as other teams as well.
we've
But
won 2 titles.
yeah, it's not
So,
like we're scrapping for our first title here. This is
no,
a team that has won and has done it before.
we won 2 titles. I'm not gonna say we could take the rest of the decade off, but, like, we could weather a little bit of criticism for another couple of years and see where we're at.
But it's not even the titles. Like you said earlier, it's 7 years of playoff football, like of competing level dynasty football.
Yep,
Frankly, like my team has done, yeah, did that prior to the rebuild as well with nine, I
did.
think
The
9 of the 10,
blowouts.
the blowouts. Of course, it was a great run for the blowouts. But like I think there's a lot to be said for the Lambs in that perspective. Like just rock solid quality fantasy football. And James never really, I want to say. I there wasn't ever a point where the Lambs were ever like he's the top team. Am I right? Like it was like where it's the obvious like yes he is the like heading into the
He had
season
a
he
points
was the
title, I
number
think,
one
in
guy.
there. I think he had a points win in there. I know he was when I won my points title, he was only like you and him were only like 10 and like 12 points or something crazy behind me. Like we were all like this close on the point. I literally got it off of a Cooper Cup Monday night craziness. Um
I
like
guess I was thinking like just in terms of like when we were talking, previous years and team reviews we've done in the past, which I'm gonna go back and look now. Did we have
yeah,
we ever like said James was like the number one team heading into the preseason
I would say
or
not
like
in the podcast era, but I would say that like
podcast errors?
yeah, I'm serious, but in the early
I'm gonna
sleeper
use that.
era, pre-podcasts, but post Yahoo Fires of 2018, James is definitely probably the best team in that window. Maybe the only other one is Dan. It's between him and Dan.
That's true.
And
Dan was always up there.
yeah, Dan just didn't. Dan got unlucky in the playoffs. James kind of, bounced his way more in the playoffs. It is what it is. But like, I think it's unfair to say that James wasn't a top team. Like, I definitely viewed the Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon,
Yeah,
Eckler.
that was a great run.
Like, he had a year where he had, I think I'm not even exaggerating. I think it was 38 touchdowns from Mixon and Eckler
Man,
in
that's
1 year.
well, that year was absurd. Like in general, like I mean, he got literally like the top, I think 2 or 3 running backs
There
that
are
year.
running backs 2 and 3, I think, that year. It's
Yeah,
like
which is
crazy.
stupid. Yeah, like to have that is it's basically what Scavelli had this past year, with Saquon and Bart and Henry. Just having those top, couple of guys, just you can just completely carry a season on that.
Yeah,
Um,
and we didn't talk about it enough, and I know it's running along, so I'll try to make it quick. But like
no, we're
James is
good.
very creative. He is very smart, and I know that he's done a lot of what he's done in the past few years with little draft capital because he had traded and made his moves. So I think there's a chance that he could use some of the draft capital we're talking about and trade for veteran flex players to fill in these holes that we're talking about. That we're like, we don't know. Will a rookie be able to step up? He's saying, no, I don't need a rookie. I'm going to go raid the Alex pantry like Tibbs does every 5 minutes and go get somebody.
Yeah, that's let's end it on this note, I guess, with like I will say James is never just complacent. Like there's always something there's something in the works, or he's at least thinking about like what can we do to get this roster better. We're not just sitting around. He's tight on the waiver wire. He's always trying to find something to make something happen. So I think that like if you're like kind of a team kind of in this position where we're at now, like James is a guy, like I said earlier, I'm not really betting against because I know he's going to at least be working to try to figure out how to make it better, even if it's not really like big assets or giant trades or things like that. Like even a low level trade, like James has made those work and in his favor. Like these kind of, we joke around about these, bullshit for bullshit trades, but like sometimes like James hits those and it's like, okay, well, it's like that's the stuff that, some other teams in the league kind of just are not as frequent. You don't see them doing quite the same things that the Lambs usually
We're
are.
just
So
not there yet because Like the team's not good enough for those savvy veteran moves to work.
Yeah, like you kind of just need to see what's going on first before you can like start moving around, some of these guys, let alone the assets, right? So
Well, I need to see that these running backs are good enough to
yeah, it's
sort
kind of
of.
what I'm saying. Just like we have too many rookies. We have so many of these second year players. Like we got to see what we have, and
Mhm.
then maybe these more moves come in.
Maybe that's the hardest part then for the Lambs right now is because we have to wait and see. Like you can't
Yeah,
find that veteran trade right now because we're not a veteran away. We're 5 veterans away. It's because that's not possible. You just have to sit tight for another year of just letting this build and letting this grow and finding another couple pieces that are young to go with the core that we're still trying to rebuild. The core James, I talk about core. The core is really Lamb and Brian Thomas and Kerber are the only veterans. Everyone else is a rookie in that core.
true.
Henderson, Judkins, or a second year player like a Keon Coleman. Like we're trying to make them part of our core, but they don't have either we haven't seen it yet or uh someone like Keon Coleman where like we're still trying to wonder if he even has it at all.
Yeah, it's like the Meet the Fockers where he's like, draws the circle. He's like, you're just outside the circle. You're not in the circle yet. Like we'll get
Yeah.
you might be in the circle, but you're not in the circle yet.
Yeah, and we have some of those big, beautiful circle members there is with these wide receivers,
Yeah,
but
it's like you're
we need
not
a
you're
few
not
more
getting in
circle
that
members.
circle with Brian Thomas quite yet, Quinshon.
Yeah,
Like we'll see.
that's true. It's really an insult to Brian Thomas to put Keon Coleman in the circle with him. Like
Yeah,
Keon, not
you're
in the
not putting him in
circle.
the circle. He's not even close to the circle.
You're
If
just
that's the
not in the
case,
circle, bud.
it's just that simple. Anywho, that
That's
was
a
a
good way
good
to
podcast. Yeah, really, really fun one. Good discussions. Thanks for
have me
coming on
here.
again. Really fun. Next week, I can't remember off the top of my head who we're doing, but it should be another fun one. And of course, we have the 100th episode Muskrat Spectacular. So that should be a fun one. And we also are getting some, earlier today, I had some discussions with James regarding some content for the 100th episode. We're going to make it extra special. So it should be a really fun one, kind of looking at the league in its totality, as we review, all the years of the league now, 14 years in, which is crazy to even say, 14 years into this Dynasty League. So it should be really fun. So until next time, we will see you and next time on the PHU Dynasty podcast for another team review. See you later.